Welcome to the Health Hobby Podcast, the place for busy moms searching for simple solutions to weight loss, more energy, better nutrition, fitness, and healthy living time management. I'm your host, Amanda Ford. Stick with me and make health your hobby as I guide you through simple steps and skill-building exercises so you can finally hit those dreamy health and weight loss goals. Take it from me, it's time to kick all those fad diets and quick fix workouts to the curb. It's all about slowing down and finding your very own rhythm of healthy living, because when you find your health, you find your joy. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to the Health Hobby Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Ford. I'm so grateful you stopped into my little space in the podcast universe. I'm going to jump right in today, as this episode is part 2 of a 2-episode series called Demystifying 11 Styles of Clean Eating. Last week, we demystified 6 styles of clean eating: non-processed whole foods, organic eating, vegan and vegetarianism, the raw diet, paleo, and the no added sugar trends. Today, we will go even more into the weeds of the clean eating concept and break down 5 more clean eating styles for you to consider. Really quick, I want to remind everyone that you can still sign up to my free community newsletter. Click the link for newsletter in the show notes. By signing up, this is a free way to support the podcast and also a really fun way to dive in deeper into concepts that I talk about here and get extra content that is exclusive to my email subs. Alrighty, let's get going here. We have a packed episode today. And remember, if you haven't listened to the first episode in this series, part 1 is just before this one, episode number 22. As we talk about each clean eating style, listen for aspects of each clean eating routine that fits your personal preferences and your weight loss goals. Okay, number 7, no white food. The no white foods diet is similar to the no added sugar clean eating style, which we talked about. It was the last one we talked about in the last episode, but the no white food routine goes a step farther. The no white food concept is a simple rule of thumb to avoid overly processed and refined ingredients like white breads, white rice, white sugar, white pasta, and some will go even farther to say no starchy veggies like potatoes. Why would we want to do this in efforts to clean up our diets? Well, these foods spike our blood sugar and lack the fiber and nutrients found in their whole grain or natural counterparts. Eating these foods in excess can also cause inflammation, which is the root cause of most disease and health conditions. But mostly, eating within the no white food style of clean eating is a filter to help you choose more nutritious and colorful options. There's a little saying we teach kids in elementary school. I bet you've heard it. You are moms. And they teach it not in only in elementary school, but in preschool. And it's called Eat the Rainbow. It's an effort to encourage eating fruits and veggies, again, similar to the other styles we've talked about already in the last episode. Okay, let's talk about number 8, dairy-free. It's another white food. So if you were to download a no white food clean eating meal plan, it would probably be also dairy-free. So dairy-free lifestyle or clean eating skips milk, cheese, yogurts, butters, whether it's for health reasons like lactose intolerance, ethical choices, or just to feel better without it. I personally feel so much better when I don't have dairy, but everyone has their own body and sensitivities. I've been reading a ton of functional medicine literature lately, and you'll find time and time again that the texts will say removing dairy from your diet can really be beneficial for people from suffering from a variety of health conditions, like almost everything. It's really, really crazy. So dairy is great, and I love it, but it happens to trigger inflammation quite easily. Plus, for some, even if they're not officially lactose intolerant, they can be quite sensitive to dairy and not really know it. So that's me. I actually do know I'm sensitive, but if you're like, why am I bloated all the time? Why am I just not feeling so great? Maybe just take a look at your dairy intake and see if you can just reduce it down and see how you feel. Maybe you can cut it out altogether. But the reason I added this dairy-free to the clean eating podcast episode is because most of the clean eating routines that you'll download online probably will be dairy-free. And a lot of the functional medicine routines for elimination diets to kind of the reason you do elimination diets would be to identify allergies. It'll usually start with dairy. And my personal physician actually told me this as well too, when I was kind of going through I'm going through like a GI thing. And a couple years ago, they're like, the first thing I want you to do is cut out dairy. So it's in the mainstream standard of care for our regular physicians. The functional medicine physicians are talking about it. So it's definitely something super important to consider when we're talking about a clean eating style. I personally experienced this. I'm super sensitive to dairy, but I'm actually not technically allergic to it. I love yogurt and cheese, but I try not to have those things too much. I can also say that when I don't have these things and when I choose not to put milk in my coffee, which I've done for the last week and a half, I've been just drinking black coffee, which has really changed a whole lot for me. Again, I'm actually going to talk about that in a different episode, but I usually feel a whole lot better throughout the day. So it's a really, really easy thing to change, is like maybe you take the milk out of your coffee, take the creamer out of your coffee, and see how you feel for the day. And I share this not to encourage you to avoid dairy, okay? So because there are a lot of good nutrients in dairy products, but when we're cleaning up your eating routine for weight loss, it's important to identify foods that make you feel really good. So cut out the ones that make you feel lousy. So even if they are super nutritious, you don't need to eat them if they don't make you feel great. There's other things that you can eat instead. So for many people, dairy is one of those types of foods. And today we're super lucky. There are plenty of plant-based alternatives that still let you enjoy creamy, comforting foods while keeping dairy out of the picture. I do think it would be a good idea to give dairy-free clean eating a try and see how you feel for a week or so. You may not even miss it. So I love almond milk, oat milk, all those things. You got to be careful when we talk about additives and things like that. I know a lot of those things seem like they're healthy, but get in that routine. Like I said in the last episode, flip over, check out the ingredients. It should literally just say, like, for example, for almond milk, should just say water and almonds. Like there shouldn't be sugar. There shouldn't be, I can't even pronounce or think of any other chemicals that should be in there. There shouldn't be any thickening agents. Should just say almonds and water. Same goes for the oat milk and everything else. So we don't want sugar added beverages to replace our dairy. You should just keep your milk if you're going to do that. But just do your best, look at the ingredients and find something that works for you if you're thinking about going dairy free for a clean eating routine. Okay. Number 9, cooking from scratch. Cooking from scratch is all about taking control of your ingredients. Instead of relying on boxed, frozen, or packaged meals, you're creating your food at home with fresh ingredients. It might take a little bit more time, and I realize that this is a podcast for busy moms. You're like, girl, I do not have time to cook from scratch. But for the purpose of our conversation today, working on clean eating or deciding how we're going to implement a clean eating routine into our life, let's just think about this. Yes, it does take a little bit more time, but it's a version of clean eating because there are fewer additives, better nutrition, and an extra dash of love you just can't get from factory or pre-boxed foods. This particular clean eating style could certainly melt into many of the other styles we've already discussed, like organic, whole foods, raw. However, cooking from scratch could also certainly add a bunch of sugar depending on the recipe, so you need to be careful here. But for our purposes today, cooking from scratch is working to eat less additives and unnecessary chemicals that are included in pre-packaged and pre-prepared foods. It gives you control of what is in your food, sugars, chemicals, etc. Because to cook from scratch, you are bringing together a bunch of single ingredients to make a delicious meal. So think of our very first clean eating concept in episode number 22, the one before this one. It was the whole foods, unprocessed foods, and even organic style number 2. So from a weight loss standpoint, in episode number 19, What to Eat for Weight Loss, I shared that cooking from scratch is a strategy that gives you control. So because you will be tracking your food and portioning your food on a weight loss journey, cooking from scratch allows you to keep a tight lock on ingredients and portion sizes of what's in those meals. So eating out a lot, you can certainly eat out when you're on a weight loss journey, but the preparation of the food isn't in your control. Neither are the ingredients. Same goes for prepared meals and other food items that are pre-prepared for you. So maybe like at the deli counter or something. A simple example, there is a big trend right now for overnight oats, which is funny because they've been popular for a long time, but there has been a pre-packaged version you can buy at the market now, which is super funny to me because they've been popular for a long time. At least I've seen them online for quite some time, and they're really delicious to make, by the way. But I've recently seen that there now are pre-packaged versions of overnight oats at the market that you can just buy. They have them at Trader Joe's, and I saw another brand at Costco just this past weekend. So honestly, they are not too bad of ingredients, but the sugar is so high. And there are some other funky ingredients in there, like natural flavors. We talked about that one, and a bunch of preservatives that we really don't like or need. Overnight oats is one of the easiest things to make from scratch. You do nothing but dump ingredients in a jar or a container, give it a stir, and put it in the fridge. All fresh ingredients, all in your control and not contaminated with any other type of chemical. It's literally so easy. And so I don't want you to think like, oh, you're telling me to cook this entire giant turkey dinner every night. That's not insane. Just think about a couple things that are easy to make from scratch that gives you the control. So I just want to talk about this for a second. And I know some of you are feeling that right now. And that is, I don't have the time to cook from scratch, or maybe you don't have the cooking skills. So you're a little nervous about this clean eating style. In regards to time, I 100% understand. I work full time. I have 2 teenagers, you guys, plus a whole host of other things to manage. Time is so scarce. I really wish I had more time to cook more from scratch, but I don't. So I choose just a few things that I can do really easily, like overnight oats. And I like to make chili from scratch. That's not super time intensive and it's easy. You can also use a crock pot. That's nice. I recently started learning about making 100% whole wheat sourdough bread. So eventually our bread will be from scratch, but we don't eat much bread, so I won't have to make it too often. And a side note, sourdough is a little bit challenging. If you want to follow my sourdough journey, make sure you're following me over on Instagram at the Health Hobby Podcast. I share, right now they're all fails, but I can't wait to have a fresh loaf of 100% whole wheat sourdough sandwich bread for my kids to eat. It's going to be so great and delicious. But cooking from scratch could be as simple as, instead of getting canned green beans, you cook fresh green beans. Pick a few things you can do from scratch, things that you love. Also, something that many moms feed their kiddos, and it isn't so healthy in my book, but is one of my favorite comfort foods, is mac and cheese. So toss the box mac and cheese and make it from scratch. It's the same steps, you just are using real cheese instead of weird cheese substance powder. Another really easy from scratch recipe is applesauce. We love applesauce in our house, and I haven't made it in a while, to be honest with you, but it's extremely delicious and easy to make from scratch. I started making this from scratch when the kids were infants learning to eat real foods, and I didn't realize how easy it was. I just steamed the apples and there you go. You can add some cinnamon, easy peasy. So this week I'm actually changing up my protein shakes, and so another way that I've started really incorporating cooking from scratch and steering away from additives is this past week, it's been about almost 2 weeks. I'm actually I changed up my protein shakes, and I'm not using pre-prepared whey powder, and instead I'm using all raw ingredients. This takes away the extremely processed whey protein, but still gets me a heavy hit of protein in the morning. So instead I'm using organic hemp seed. The rest of my process of making my shake remains the exact same. So little things like that can be simple shifts into cooking from scratch. And If you are new to cooking, start with a crock pot. It takes minimal skills and makes delicious food from scratch, all while you're at work. So when you get to come home, you get to smell delicious dinner waiting for you on the counter. One other big win from cooking from scratch is that it's much smarter financially. So it not only cleans up your nutrition, but it cleans up your pocketbook. So do people still say pocketbook? It cleans up your bank account. Prepackaged foods and processed foods have a lot of icky things in them, like we've talked about already. And we just don't want to put all that added sugar and extra chemical into our body, which is making us fat and sick. But they also are more expensive. Think of cereal here. I always think of cereal when I think of this example. It's so insane how expensive cereal is. So how about instead grab a giant can of organic oats for $5 that will last literally like probably a few months, and eat off that for a month or two. And remember, this is your nutrition story, so you can write it however you want. You can implement any of these styles or incorporate a few of them into your eating routine. But cooking from scratch is just one of those clean eating styles that should make an appearance in your routine at least once in a while. And again, it doesn't have to be everything. It doesn't have to be a full turkey dinner every night. It's like maybe you do your breakfast from scratch instead of getting pre-prepared cereals, right? Think of one or two things that you can cook from scratch this week and make a goal of getting that done. Okay, let's jump into clean eating style number 10, low carb clean eating. Oh man, not this again, you guys. I think we've all heard that carbs are, well, the devil and that you should never eat them. But the thing is, those statements aren't backed up by why you shouldn't eat them or what types of carbs you should eat. They just say all carbs are bad, which is really not true, you guys. We need carbohydrates, but just in the right amounts and just from the right sources. Just like we need the right amounts of fats and proteins, vitamins, and minerals. It's an essential nutrient. So why would we say they're bad? Our brain runs solely on glucose, which comes from carbohydrates. You guys, we need this. Oh, and if you're not sure what an essential nutrient is, make sure to go back and listen to episode number 17 to learn the must-know nutrition vocabulary for weight loss, and you'll get to know what an essential nutrient is and a whole other bunch of vocab words, so you have an easier time following along on the Health Hobby podcast or reading articles and studying up on your nutrition, which I think everyone should do. But hey, let's talk about this low carb thing for a second. So low carb eating means cutting back on foods that are high in carbohydrates. So like breads, pasta, and sugary treats. I know you can't see my notes, but I have a bunch of asterisks next to the word carbohydrates. That's because carbs are in other foods besides sugary treats, sodas, pastas, breads, candies, etc. Many clean eating routines focus on low carbs. I think it's a good routine, actually, focusing more on proteins, healthy fats, and veggies. But here's the thing, veggies and fruits are full of carbohydrates. So that's super important to know. Fruits and vegetables have carbohydrates in them when you're thinking about doing a low carb, clean eating style. So fruits come up in the conversation a lot though. So fruits have high carbohydrate counts, but when eating fresh whole fruits, you're getting a boatload of fiber and other critical nutrients. So there's no need to avoid them, and a lot of people do. And if you need to avoid them for other reasons, and as I learned through my own GI situation journey, some fruits can be quite you can be quite sensitive to some of the sugars in fruits. So fructose can be bothersome to some people, but another conversation. But for our purposes here, they're full of fiber, vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals. So there is no need, you guys, to cut them out of your diet. And in fact, I would bet that most of us aren't eating enough fruit. So think about how much fruit have you had in the last week? Fresh fruit. But for someone on a weight loss journey, since you're tracking your food, this will give you a quantitative marker of how eating whole fruits shifts your carbohydrate intake for the day. And from there, you can play with it and see what works best for you for the amount of fruit and veggies that you intake. But really, most of us are lacking in those areas. So I'm sure you could go ahead and add a few to your daily routine. You'd be just fine. So eating clean in the low carb sense is really focused on reducing all sugars, both from whole foods and refined prepared foods. For many people, it's a way to manage energy levels, support weight goals, and reduce sugar cravings. It doesn't have to be extreme though. It's about finding the right balance for your body. And that's why tracking your food is so important. And I'm not condoning eating like hundreds and hundreds of grams of carbohydrates. I'm encouraging you to get the right carbohydrates. So maybe reduce your bread intake and up your fruits and veggies intake. So you're not really getting rid of carbs, you're just getting them from a smarter food source. All right, let's round out this series with our last clean eating style, number 11, gluten-free. Eating gluten-free is something that is similar to the no white foods diet. And you could say it's also the low carb that could roll in together. Remember in episode 1, I said, think Venn diagram when we're talking about all the different clean eating styles. Gluten-free is when you are eliminating or reducing foods that are high in gluten or contain gluten. So right off the bat, you can think of bread and wheat products. So anything that has a wheat product in it. But this is so tricky because if you're not gluten-free and you don't have celiac disease, which I'll talk about in a second, gluten is literally in everything. So pasta sauces, salad dressings, obviously cereals, because a lot of them are wheat-based, but even soups. You're like, I just bought vegetable soup. Why is there wheat in this? Well, it can help thicken. There's probably a little bit of flour in there to help thicken the soup. You really have to look at your food labels here. And going gluten-free isn't really a weight loss technique per se, but it can be advertised as such. I would say that gluten, like dairy, is one of those really tricky substances that can be inflammatory and cause sensitivity in people, even if they aren't allergic. So celiac disease is when you are 100% confirmed allergic to gluten. There was blood test and all types of ways that they test for this, but you can also be sensitive to it, just like milk. So even if you're not technically allergic, you can have those sensitive side effects. So like bloating, burning in the stomach, extreme gas, just a lot. Even some people get rashes and things like that. If you're getting a rash, you're probably allergic, but you need to go see your physician that can do a blood test or some other types of testing to determine if you're technically allergic to gluten. But again, just for me, from a personal example, just like the dairy, I have been tested for gluten allergy and I'm technically not allergic, but I, like dairy, am so sensitive to it. And just in the last couple weeks, along with the dairy reduction, I have 95% cut out my gluten intake and I feel a whole lot better. Even my energy has increased, you guys. So a lot of times with gluten sensitivity, you'll have fatigue. So again, I'm not a huge like, oh, I'm gluten-free, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. I definitely had pasta this week. It was a small amount. I had a little bit yesterday too, but not as much as I had in the past. I even stopped eating a salad dressing that I really love because there's gluten in it. So just really trying to be vigilant and reduce my gluten intake to I have a bad bloating. So I'm trying to really help my tummy recover and heal, and reducing gluten and dairy has really, really helped with that for me. But from a weight loss standpoint, it can be one of those things that can help reduce inflammation, give you your energy back if you want to go gluten-free. It's just a little tricky to navigate, eating out and things like that. But if you don't have celiac disease and you're not 100% allergic to it, you can have gluten once in a while and just see how it makes you feel. It's quite interesting. I've only had maybe a handful of things, maybe 5 different things in the last week and a half that had gluten in it. And I could feel it almost instantly the second I ate it, how my stomach felt, as my body was digesting that food, and I didn't feel great. And again, just like the dairy, you guys, if food's not making you feel great, don't eat it or try to avoid it or eat it in low amounts. So eating gluten-free is considered clean eating for the fact that it can reduce a lot of GI symptoms in people, especially in people that don't have a celiac disease. It can really make you feel a whole lot better. And gluten too, if you get into functional medicine reading and learning, like I have been, because I'm going through this GI thing, but and something else that I'll share about later, but it's quite interesting. Like dairy, gluten can really trigger a host of a whole lot of other problems. And just reducing it, again, I've said it multiple times already, it can really change your life. So if you're even fatigued, some of us moms are like, I'm so tired all the time. I just don't have energy to work out. How am I going to have energy to do this and meal prep and clean eat and go for my walks and do all these things? Well, maybe you should cut out gluten and see if you can gain some of your energy back. I know that sounds crazy, but it's something that can really help people. So anyway, gluten-free is our last clean eating style, and I'm sure I forgot one. If you think I forgot a clean eating style over the last 2 episodes, let me know. Put them in the YouTube comments. And after all of that, what do you think is clean eating now? Did your definition change from when we started the first episode, or have you picked out a new eating style that you're going to incorporate into your life, or something you want to try? I'd love to know. Pop them in the YouTube comments, you guys, or send me an email. You can email me from the show notes. You can just send me an email from there. Super quick and simple. I'd love to interact with you guys. So after all that, I'd like to say that in our house, we are a whole foods, non-processed foods, organic, no added sugar, clean eaters with a pinch of no dairy and no gluten. And I say a pinch of non-dairy and no gluten because I don't feel great when I eat dairy or gluten so much, and mostly milk. But I do enjoy Greek yogurt and cheese now and then. And the gluten, I've just recently started to reduce, and that's been a really big game changer for me. But my kids still eat it, and my husband. So, it just really has to be what works for you. But I prefer other types of milk too, like oat milk or almond milk. I love that. And when making food choices for weight loss, you guys, I just want to remind you, assessing what makes you feel really good and what doesn't make you feel good is just as important as tracking your calories. We all have those foods that just make us feel sluggish, lousy, and bloated. Clean that up and be selecting foods that do make you feel good. Yet another reason to track your food and take notes. And hey, I just came up with another clean eating concept. So you can call this the stop feeling like crap clean eating routine. Oh my gosh, that was so much, you guys. I can't believe that took 2 episodes. That was pretty fun exploring all of the different ways you can eat clean. It's important to think about what makes the most sense for you and your goals. And keep in mind, eating a well-balanced diet with a variety of foods working to get as much nutrients from whole foods as possible is best. How you do that is in your hands. So what is your clean eating style? Share in the YouTube comments. I've already asked. I just can't wait to hear. I bet most of you are a combination of these, just like me. So who knows, maybe you are all of them. So thanks so much for joining me for today's episode. My goal, as always, is to help you find inspiration and excitement around healthy living, and to spark curiosity and ultimately action to learn more about how you can feel and look your best without feeling overwhelmed as a busy mom. If this show resonates with you, I'd love to ask for your help in supporting the podcast so I can continue creating helpful episodes and offering free downloadable resources to as many busy moms as possible. Here are a few totally free ways you can support the podcast. First, you can subscribe to the Health Hobby Podcast on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. And on Apple and Spotify, you can also leave a 5-star review. Subscribing and leaving reviews really do make a difference, so thank you in advance. Another great and free way to support the show is to share this episode either on your social media or directly with a friend who might enjoy the topic. As a reminder, if you have any contact questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the YouTube comments. And if you're looking for free resources I've often mentioned in most of my episodes, I keep them all in one handy place. Just click the free resources vault link in the show notes of any episode to access everything. You can also connect with me directly on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest. The handle for all of these is at the Health Hobby Podcast. And last but not least, I have an epic community newsletter that I'd love for you to join. It's a great way to go deeper on podcast topics and connect with me more personally. I share parts of my own healthy living and weight loss journey that only my email subscribers get access to. It's a fun and encouraging space where we build real conversation and community among busy moms working towards better health and weight loss goals together. To join the newsletter, again, totally free, just scroll down to the show notes, click newsletter, and enter your email address. I'd be so excited to have you join me and the hundreds of other moms in our tight-knit, healthy living community. Alrighty, guys, thanks for being here. Stay happy and stay healthy, everyone. Hey there, me again. Quick disclaimer. Here on the Health Hobby Podcast, I share tips, insights, and ideas to help you on your weight loss and fitness journey. But I'm not your doctor or your personal health guru. Before diving into any nutrition or fitness plans I talk about, make sure to check in with your healthcare provider. They know your body best. Think of this podcast as your cheerleader and a place for healthy living idea inspiration, not your prescription pad. Stay safe, stay smart, and let's crush those goals together. Until next time.